uh, Saturday night, Nish also transitioned into from talking about Roma's psychological conditions to we began to hear language of possession and the role of exorcisms and asking people to pledge that they believe him in these, which I understand why he was like, I don't want to get into the semantics of this too much. I understand that there is a space for framing psychological or any kind of illness within a spiritual lens. I do happen to believe that there are entities that can, we know that everything is connected. If we believe that all is one, that there is no separation, we understand how this kind of influence can happen. However, we don't compartmentalize, right? We don't say it's one or the other, right? We can look at traditional, more allopathic forms of medicine alongside spirituality, right? And that's for the individual to decide with their health practitioners. And I'm not going to sit here and say that there's no room for that discourse. But when we are presenting ourselves, Nish, as spiritual leaders, we have to be very careful about the language we use. Because basically, within a day, I've got a group of people who now believe that this girl is possessed by a demon. And now it's to the point where Nish is scolding me for talking to her, for addressing her directly. People are not to share prasad with her. Now, I understand, again, the logic behind this, but these lines are now suddenly changing rapidly, without any understanding of why or how. And to the point that now I'm questioning openly and verbally the power dynamics that are taking place. But things are happening differently when I'm around and I have to go to the kitchen now and then Sarada Ma's around and she's having a very different experience and seeing different things. We're getting different communications to the point that Sarada Ma, again, jump in as needed, asked them to leave.
I have CPTSD. I have had a life. I've been in very dark places. I'm from the punk rock scene. I'm from the tattoo scene. I am from the biker scene, East Coast, like no fucking joke. This is the craziest thing I have ever seen happen to a woman in front of my face. It is like a community is shunning her and she cannot defend herself because she is inco-fucking-herent. It was absolutely horrendous, and I don't think I will ever recover from that. And like I said, I've seen some shit, you guys. Like your Nish, your ability to use words to get people to do what you need to happen in the situation is super powerful. A lot of us have taken philosophy. If anybody hasn't, some of the first things they teach you are logic and rhetoric, how to use words to change a situation, how to win an argument. Those are very, very powerful skills. Use them with fucking caution. Everybody doesn't understand uh, the references that you make, the comparisons that you make. Fucking think. You remember when we were talking about Gurdjieff? When he came to New York for the first time, a reporter asked him, "Do you have a message for America?" And he said, "Think."
I provided strict instructions to the people that left. I sent her with food and water and clothing and as much resources as I could. Specifically, I asked other people to pay attention and remind her to eat. She wasn't eating or drinking on her own. I had to like make her eat and drink. So, everyone's chanting Chandi. That has worked in the past. I have seen that work to calm her down before. Down for that. I don't think I was awake very long at all from the time that I finally laid down. I really do not. I do not recall being conscious for very long. The last thing I remember was her running around, literally around the group, just kind of yelling out and pacing, something she had been doing. I can't tell you exactly what time this was. I'm gonna guess sometime between 1:30 and 3:30 in the morning. This is my best guess. Probably on the later end. I'm just not sure. When I woke in the morning around 9, I sat up and the first thing I did was I looked around for Roma. I didn't see her anywhere. This part, I don't actually remember very well. That moment of panic makes it very difficult to recall exactly if you're still awake. I began to be very alarmed very quickly. I was then informed first, I believe, by Shunya. I think it's the first person who said, I don't know, she took off and didn't come back. It might have been Grasnima. Um, Within a few moments, just about everyone was awake because I was very loud, and very upset. And basically, I got Veranatha, Shunyama, Nikula, Grasnima, and Nish, 5 people acknowledging to me that they witnessed her walk away from our camp in a manic state, that they watched her from afar for a short distance while she paced on the other end of the park. I'm talking football field length away. And that at one point, Nish got up to go try to convince her to come back, and she instead ran. And then it was decided, instead of going after her, instead of following her from a distance, to at least keep eyes on her, using Nicula's car, who was there and was awake and had a vehicle to follow safely from a distance. Um, it's about 10:30, and I'm realizing like she's really, really gone. Um, and I go to the coffee shop because I haven't used the morning bathroom yet. Like, I've just been looking for this girl, right? I gotta use the bathroom. So I go to this coffee shop where we've been going to use the bathroom, and I find Nikula and Grasny Ma sitting at a table having coffee and breakfast. I text Grasny Ma, like, what are you doing? Why, like, what are you doing? This is like serious. Why aren't you helping? And her response is, this is how she will try to separate us. She's working the angles. It's just a Leela. She's a real child, and now she's missing with none of her things. Leela does not equal not, or doesn't equal not real. That's what I say to her. And Grasanima says, we've basically been hanging out with a demon for 2 weeks. I definitely believe that's real. By Leela, I mean she's tricked us at night in this park before. I go on to emphasize that Rama is a person who matters, regardless of whatever affliction she may have going on psychically, spiritually, whatever. Rama is a human being who matters, and it should be everyone's priority to have been looking out for her. And right now, all that matters is finding her, and everyone should be helping.
I was fully aware of the fact of her institutionalization. I knew what drug she was on, an antipsychotic and an SSRI. And the nature of our discussion was she wanted to stop taking those things so that she could align herself with her spiritual ideals more. As you know, we all as a community said, don't give up on allopathic psychiatric care. Don't stop taking your medications. I committed to like doing the drugs with her. I took her antipsychotic and her SSRI to show her that like I think it's going to be fine. I didn't want her to go missing. I never thought she would. Like, she's surprising me when she ran away. That was one thing. She had never been a flight risk before. And I know that when we were together in Portland and Seattle, she was exhibiting behaviors that I hadn't seen from her before. I should have known from then that it was getting out of my control, out of all of our control, and we should have sent her back to Sacramento. It was in over my head. That's definitely true. And I admitted
Yes.
to you on,
And
I
you were
think it was,
told repeatedly by
yes,
everyone
yes, yes.
around you.
Yes, and I didn't listen, and I want to be better at that. Because if I don't, Ma, you won't be here to protect me anymore. And the people who are actually willing to hold me accountable and tell me that I did something wrong and then suggest different ways of behavior won't be here anymore. And then I'll truly be in danger. I don't want to get there. This is this is a very important moment for us as a community, but it's also a very important moment for me personally. Like at this juncture of my Saturn return, at like 30 years old, for the sustainability of what we're doing, which we all believe in, if we like just leave me to my own devices, that's when I think I'm at my most vulnerable, because then I might be doing these things and not even be like reflecting upon them. And so yeah,
And
I will admit that.
you're still sticking to that you were not in a sexual relationship
Yeah,
with Rama.
I
Okay,
mean
can I
like
ask you a question about
yeah, yeah,
that?
yeah.
Why, when I came into my puja room after you guys were in there together for so long and she was laying on the floor with her shirt off,
Yes. Exactly. So she climbed onto my lap and I threw her off. She took her shirt off and I said, "You better put that on before we come back." That was the nature of that discussion. That's when I came out and spoke to you guys that night because I realized this was getting out of hand.
Do you want to just, I really don't want to spend much time on it because it was a video primarily directed to me, but a lot of people saw it outside of the Kula. Do you want to just take maybe a couple minutes to nip
Yes,
that in the
yes.
butt so we can move on to the other two girls?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was me just crashing out in a cafe and making a video, an unlisted video on YouTube that was just meant for our like group chat. That was just us being a family fighting about something without any love lost. I said things that were so unfair, you know, like, and I apologize for all of them and all.